I'm Nolan Beilstein, and welcome to another episode of Gen Z in Manufacturing, a podcast where I interview young people about their journeys in manufacturing, how they intend to influence the industry, and what they are looking for from an employer. For this episode, I welcome Chloe Doherty, a 22-year-old Industry 4.0 Tech Center engineer for machinery manufacturer Zoller Inc. Doherty's interest in manufacturing started as a student in FIRST Robotics and PLTW, a nonprofit organization that develops STEM curriculum. Through FIRST Robotics, Doherty was introduced to a mechatronics CTE class where she studied many disciplines in manufacturing. She then discovered Zoller at a career fair and went on to earn a mechatronics apprenticeship. Doherty became a full-time Zoller employee in the spring of 2023, where she has been responsible for ensuring that the machines in the showroom are up to date and working properly, training new employees and customers, helping the technical support team with customer inquiries, and doing live or online demonstrations. Before we hear from Doherty, please make sure to like and share this episode of Gen Z in Manufacturing. To view previous episodes, visit manufacturing.net. If you are a member of Gen Z and would like to discuss your experience in the manufacturing industry, please get in touch with me, Nolan Beilstein, at nolan@ien.com. All right, Chloe, well, thank you for joining Gen Z in Manufacturing. My first question for you was, how did Zoller get your attention when you saw them at the career fair?
Well, he's got a lot of energy, and he's our training and development manager here. And he's also the one that heads up the apprenticeship program. So just hearing him speak and how passionate he was really drove me to go interview with him during the career fair.
Specifically, how did they get your attention? Like, what was it about them that made you at least want to approach their booth in the first place?
They're at the career fair, it's just a little different from like your normal career fairs at a high school, because I went through a MAT squared apprenticeship, and so it's only MAT squared employers that are there. And it's basically just a booth with their sign on it. And then you go and do like speed round interviews with each company. And honestly, what made me get in line to do a speed interview with Michael was his energy. And what really drew me into saying that I wanted to work at Zoller was when I did my second interview at the actual facility. Everyone was so welcoming to me, even though I was a student and I was like intruding on their space for a day. Everyone was willing to talk to me and like answer my questions, even if it was, stupid 17-year-old kid questions. I appreciate that Zoller allows me the room to grow and have my own experiences and not like lock me in a box. And I'm learning new things every day, so I'm not on an assembly line just, putting in the same screws into the same bracket every day, day in and day out.
You mentioned that you did some speed rounds or speed interviews with them. How many companies did you meet with that day at the career fair?
That day that I met Zoller, I probably interviewed with 4 other companies.
What about those companies that you didn't go through with? Why didn't they make you want to work there?
They were just like trying to get me through the interview. They weren't trying to get to know me or trying to get to know my history. But when I sat down with Michael for, the 5-10 minutes that we had, he got to know me and like asked me about my family, because Zoller's a 3rd generation family owned company. And we're all about creating a culture of growth and positivity. And I appreciated that, whereas everyone else was just like, oh, okay, your time's up. You can go to the next booth now.
I've heard a critique about these companies that come to career fairs and they just kind of rehash the same old pitch. Was that happening there? And just how maybe you can explain to employers that don't realize how much that's turning off Gen Z.
I guess I would kind of answer that like, I feel like as someone in Gen Z that I just want to be seen as an individual and appreciated for the individuality that I bring to the table and the creativity that I bring as an individual. But if you're going to give me the same pitch every time I come in for an interview, then that's just making me seem like it's rehearsed and you're reading from a script. And then if I would ever approach you again later on, if I were to have worked at a company like that, then it would just be the same script. Like, okay, well, this is XYZ, and it's always going to be the same XYZ answers every time I go to ask a question.
So what do you think these companies need to know about Gen Z that they're just not getting?
A lot of people say that my generation doesn't like to work hard, but that's not true at all. We will work hard and we will do what needs to be done, but we want to be appreciated for it. A lot of older generations, they never really had that appreciation. And through COVID, when a lot of my generation was graduating college or graduating high school, we had all of these little things that were being done for us, and so we felt that appreciation, and now we just don't want to lose it, really. That's how I feel. Like I do a lot of little things that make the big things matter at work. So a lot of the little jobs that I do, making sure everything runs smoothly, is a small part of the big picture, but I'm recognized for that because I'm doing what's best for the team, regardless of how it might make me feel at the moment. And I think again, I think it comes down to appreciation. At least for me, it does. I feel like loyalty has means a lot to my generation. You know, we're not jumping job to job a lot of the time. You know, we'll stay where we're comfortable, and we'll stay where we're able to grow. And if we can trailblaze a path to make it easier for the younger generations, then I think that's where we'll stay.
What was your knowledge of apprenticeships before you were introduced to Zoller?
Not very much. It's not something that my school was really known for, other than the Math Squared apprenticeship, which is it's a Department of Labor apprenticeship that Rick Snyder created a long time ago. And I didn't really learn anything about apprenticeships until after I was hired at Zoller. Other than that, I would get to go to school and work, and then I would have a guaranteed job after I graduated, which, I mean, isn't a bad thing considering what happened to a lot of people in 2008.
What were you preparing to do post high school before you were introduced to this opportunity?
Mechanical engineering at Michigan Tech. I had a scholarship to go up there. It was as far as away as I could go from my family with being in-state tuition. So,
but then Zoller changed that. How did they make you rearrange your post high school plans?
they were going to pay for my college. And I was also going to get on the job training. So while my peers were graduating with debt and then had to go get experience at an entry level position, I was training, getting my college paid for, getting paid to do work, and then also getting a degree, all within the same 3 years instead of having to do all of that within, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. So I graduated with 3 years of on the job training already, which is huge for my age. I mean, I get that a lot. A lot of people are surprised when they hear that I started at 18 and now I'm 22 and I'm in a position where I'm not only working with, my peers inside Zoller and my coworkers and all my other colleagues, but I'm working with customers one-on-one. And I can do machine installations, and I can get into a remote session and help the customer troubleshoot their programs, even if I've never seen the tool. I have trust in myself that has grown because Zoller has allowed me to make my own mistakes and learn from them without feeling like it's the end of the world.
Specifically, aside from the perks of having schooling paid for and the on-the-job training, what did you like about how they handled their apprenticeships?
Michael was very close with the students that he had. Even as they graduated, he still has a connection, and we'll check in and make sure that we're doing okay, and if we need to have a sit down and discuss some things on how we can come together again. Like if we need help troubleshooting on some measuring program or some machine, Michael is always there for us, as prior apprentices. And also we get to help and see the apprenticeship grow even after we've come out of the apprenticeship, if you're still employed at Zoller. Because my big thing was that I wanted to graduate with the least amount of debt possible, and the apprenticeship allowed me to do that. And then I just kind of came into Zoller, and I love it. I'm very pro Zoller,
And you mentioned that you grew to really enjoy cutting tools during your apprenticeship. What about that attracted you?
Well, we do department rotations within the apprenticeship. So then you're not only doing training, but then you're going through our ordering department or our technical service department, or where I fell in love with cutting tools was our showroom. I worked with Matt Brothers, who is actually my current manager because now I'm the tech center applications engineer. And he's a self-proclaimed cutting tool nerd. So when he got an order for a customer sent us tools because they would like a gauge R&R to be run on one of our inspection machines. And he helped me create that inspection program and then also allowed me to run it for the customer. I mean, he did all the technical descriptions and everything of what exactly was going on, but being able to actually have my hands in a customer specific project really helped me grow to love that a little bit more. And then I mean, you've met Aaliyah Shulke, who works at Anka. I went to Anka for a couple of visits, and I liked being able to create my 3D model in their software, and then learning how to use the actual Anka grinder, and then have my little take home end mill. After that I just kind of fell in love, and I've gotten into skiving a little bit as well with a couple of our Zoller machines, and that's where you met me at Index. I was one of the ones that had to showcase our skiving applications, which is something we've been working on for a couple of years, and we released it last year, I think.
You mentioned that you've talked with peers who are struggling to find their passion. What are they saying that they're missing out on or in their searches? What's missing in their search?
I think they haven't had the opportunity to find themselves in a professional manner. Like when you're students, you get to go through and you get to like experiment in your classes, and you have a lot of kids that say, oh, I like science, or I like reading, or I like writing essays. And unless you're in a career technical education class, you really don't get a professional level of I guess you don't get that exposure to what could be your passion as a career instead of as a hobby. And I don't think Gen Z has had enough push to be in like trade schools or any career technical education classes like previous generations had. Or even, the next, I think it's Generation Alpha is the one behind us. Like there's a lot more technical schools, technical high schools being created around Michigan and near Detroit that are bringing that up. And with the rise of FIRST Robotics, that's brought a lot of interest in manufacturing. And it's allowed kids to find a passion and a competitiveness that drives you to do better and be better.
Why do you think Gen Z got the short end of the stick? You're talking about other generations getting exposure to these kind of opportunities. Why Gen Z get left out?
I think it has a lot to do with, I mean, again, I was pretty young during the recession, but I think it has a lot to do with there's so many closures, not only for businesses, but also schools. And a lot of the public schools lost their funding. So unless you went to like a specified charter school or a specified private school, you didn't really get as much exposure to anything other than the core classes that you had to take. My cousin went to a private school, and in elementary school and early middle school, they had after school functions for art and for STEM classes like PLTW, which until I hit later middle school years, like 8th, 9th, 10th, when I got into high school as well, we didn't really get those classes because they were reserved for the high school because there wasn't enough funding to kind of trickle down into the elementary schools. But now that's becoming a lot more common because we're farther out of the recession. But I think the recession had a lot to do with the fact that there just wasn't the funding to allow Gen Z to have that exposure.
So I think Gen Z goes all the way down to something 11, 12 years old. How can manufacturers get to them early to expose them to these possibilities?
I think having, like field trips. We've had field trips with our high schools here at Zoller Inc. With the local, I think there's like 3 high schools in Ann Arbor. I'm from Detroit. But we've had their high schools in, a few times just to do a tour for the day and then have a lunch, and they can sit down and talk about what we do here every day with actual, service engineers or sales order processing people, and get a taste of what it's like, a day in the life of a 9 to 5. And I think having those school trips earlier than 11th or 12th grade might allow the passion to build a little bit earlier inside the kids.
Have you heard any critiques from your peers in similar industries regarding how their apprenticeships went?
I've heard a little bit of back and forth. Like I have a lot of my peers who very much enjoyed their apprenticeship and are also with the companies still that they were an apprentice for, like myself. And then I have people who are just waiting out their contractual obligation to be able to leave without having to pay back the tuition. And it has a lot to do with the fact that, I was treated as an equal and not really as a student, but they really weren't. They were put on a line and did the same thing every day.
So how would you pitch Zoller's apprenticeship program to a high school student who is interested in the industry?
I would say that we're very forward thinking and we like to be the motivator for higher education. Zoller is very much there for the apprentice, not only to help pay for college, but also to assist you as you grow as a professional and as hopefully an applications engineer for Zoller Inc. But we're there to be the cushion. So we encourage you to make your own mistakes. Actually, I have a couple of our newer apprentices installing one of our heat shrinking machines, and it's probably one of the most complicated machines because there's so many different wiring and heat shrinking technology, like boxes that have to be dress, and you have to have the plugs correct and completely secured. Otherwise, you could blow a fuse, and it's never fun for anyone. But they're currently doing it by themselves, and I want them to make mistakes so then we can come back and we can learn together. And a lot of apprentices are scared to make mistakes because they think they're going to get fired. And then if apprentice gets fired, they also lose their school funding, and that's horrible. And that's what some of these companies are doing to their students. They're making them feel horrible for making the smallest mistake when no one was there to catch them in the beginning. But our apprentices don't feel that way, and I think I was grateful for that when I was going through the schooling that I did. So, and I tried to make it better for the next group that comes after. So I actually helped Michael Stepke, who's the training and development manager, come up with our newer apprenticeship curriculum that we host at Washtenaw Community College. So we're no longer Matt Squared as an apprenticeship, but now we're doing an apprenticeship with WCC that's a little bit more closely tailored to what Zoller does here, because we're not your traditional manufacturing facility. All of our assembly is done in Germany, and what we do is we do demonstrations and sales, and then we do outside installations and maintenance on our machines.
Thank you for watching this episode of Gen Z in Manufacturing. Please make sure to like and share the episode. To view previous episodes, visit manufacturing.net. If you are a member of Gen Z and would like to discuss your experience in the manufacturing industry, please contact Nolan Beilstein at nolan@in.com.